Hello, fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to the first episode of 2022. My name's Sean Wasserkrug, and today we're going to be reviewing one of my most anticipated films. I believe it was number 11 on my most anticipated films of 2022. We are talking about Scream 2022. I'm gonna call it Scream 22, so that way I can talk about the first Scream in this as well. I really enjoy the Scream franchise. I think Scream 96 is a classic. I think it was fantastic. I think Scream 2, outside of one big issue, I think is just as good as the first Scream film, personally. If you guys want a little bit more of my thoughts on Scream 2, check out the Weekend Crusaders episode in December where we discussed Scream 2, and you can find out all about my loving and disliking of parts of that film. I despise Scream 3. I really don't like that film, mainly because of one particular actor and, of course, the killer reveal. And I actually really, after rewatching it here a couple days ago, I actually really enjoyed Scream 4. I think Scream 4 works in a lot of ways. I actually really like the cast, for the most part, in Scream 4. So going into Scream 5, I did something that I couldn't do with the other Scream films, and that was to completely avoid this film at all costs. Outside of the initial first trailer, I avoided this like the plague. I made sure not to watch any clips. I made sure not to watch any extra trailers outside of the teaser. So I went into this as blind as I possibly could. But word of mouth going around was that this version of Scream, or Scream 22, is fantastic and the best since Scream 96. So expectations were running a little high going into this, plus it's the first movie of the year, so I was really hoping that this movie would match my anticipation for it. Going into Scream 22, granted, you're going to have to update with the times, with technology and stuff like that, which that can be a little difficult since this movie does really revolve around using your phone and landline and stuff like that, but I do think that Scream 22 definitely does a decent job for the most part of tackling that and making that work to its advantage, especially the opening scene. But the main crux of this film is that this is what they're calling in the movie a requel, which is a remake slash sequel to the franchise, which they go on a whole big spiel about it, just like they do with Scream 2 for sequels and Scream 3 for trilogies and Scream 4 and so on and so forth. They name drop a bunch of requels such as like Force Awakens and Ghostbusters Afterlife, and the list goes on and on and on. The cast, obviously the three originals, Courtney Cox, Neve Campbell, David Arquette, they're all back as Gale, Sidney, and Dewey. And also Marley Shelton as Judy from Scream 4. The original, or the new cast, you got Melissa Barrera, who plays Sam. Many people know her from In the Heights. She was phenomenal in that. You got Jenny Ortega, who plays Tara, her sister. You got Dylan Minnette from, I think it's 13 Reasons Why, who plays Wes. Jack Quaid from The Boys, who plays Richie. Jasmine Savoy Brown, and Mason Gooding, who plays Mindy and Chad Martin, or Meeks Martin. Many people will know the Meeks last name. I'm not going to continue further than that. You also got Sona Amar as Liv, and Mikey Madison as Amber. When it comes right down to this, the kills, great. Way more brutal. And definitely way more showy than the previous films, or at least since the first two Scream films. I think visually, the kills are a lot more brutal, a lot more gory, and look better than they ever have been. There's one particular aspect with special effects that I think for what we've seen in previous films, this one works really well on it, which I'm going to go 50-50 on that particular situation. Now, in terms of the original cast, Courtney, Neve, David, I think their performances are all solid. I think all of them, they've done these roles 4 times now, so I think all of them really know how to do this job, and to them it's just like another day of the week for them. And I think Neve, Courtney, and David all do solid in their roles. There are some character backstories to these characters, especially the Dewey character, that really didn't work well for me and really kind of struck a chord negatively with me, because it's something that's outside of the Dewey character that I just couldn't get behind. Gale and Sidney, they're basically Gale and Sidney. There's not really a whole lot new to them outside of just them joining the cast midway through the movie. The new cast. to me, that is one of the downfalls of this film. I was not a fan of the new cast. Melissa Barrera as Sam, I think she does a very solid job of being kind of the new final girl of the movie, but there is one big character, not development, but big character thing that happens with her throughout the film that just does not work for me. It doesn't, it's not shocking, I have to tiptoe around this and I don't want to spoil what it is. But anyone who watches the movie, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. This character thing that she has throughout the film does not work. Now, had they gone down a certain path with this character because of this, I think that could have been brilliant and would have been right up the alley of what Scream is great at. But they don't do that, and it just, to me, felt like this character thing was a cheap requel grab that just did not work. Jenny Ortega as Tara, I think, does a solid job in the film. Dylan Minnette as Wes, I think he does a decent job in the film as well. Jack Quaid's Jack Quaid. If you like Jack Quaid and The Boys, you're going to like Jack Quaid in this film. It's really the other four. Mason Gooding and Jasmine Savoy Brown as the Meek twins, or Meeks Martin twins. They're fine, especially I think Mason Gooding, I think he does a solid job. Jasmine Savoy Brown, she's good in parts, but sometimes just plays the certain character. I don't want to say who it is, but if you know who the Meeks character is from Scream, you know exactly who I am. I think she leans really too hard into trying to be like a character from the past films that it just doesn't click or doesn't work well for me. Sonia Amar as Liv is a relatively pointless character and kind of an annoying character, and to the point where I kind of kept forgetting she was in the film, and then she would just show up. And even, I forgot what happens to her character in the movie. I was literally watching the cast, because they do, like, in the credits, they show everyone's face and their names. And I was like, wait, what happened to her? And I had to think for about a good 5 seconds before I was like, that's right, blank happened to her. And then there's Mikey Madison, who plays Amber. The worst performance of the movie. Hands down, the worst performance of the film. She's never likable in the film. She's never given anything really to try and act with. And when certain elements of the movie happen with her character, it just kind of comes off laughably bad and not in like, almost like a scary movie parody kind of way. Really, her performance in this film, anytime she's on screen, it just does not work. It doesn't click with the rest of the cast, and she sticks out like a sore thumb. Speaking of sticking out like a sore thumb, the 2, 3, 4, single, who knows how many killers in this movie, but the killers in this film, you can spot from a mile away. There is no twist in this movie. I mean, it likes to think it has a twist because it's Scream, and Scream always has to have a twist. Frankly, outside of Scream 96 and Scream 4, there has been no good twists for these killers. Scream 2's twist was the worst part of Scream 2. Scream 3's was laughably bad. And in this one, when the killers, I won't say how many there are, but there definitely is more than one, when they basically get revealed, I was like, yeah, duh. One of them is way too leaned on to not be the killer, and one is way too, I'm not going to say because that might give something away, but it's just like, there was never a point in this film that I didn't think that these characters were not the killers of the film, which to me, granted, not everyone's going to figure it out, not everyone's going to know who the killers are, and that's fine. I figured it out, yay me, but it's just, I almost kind of felt like, really? You guys went exactly where I thought you were going to go, and that kind of bummed me out. The other problem with this film that just doesn't work for me is, once again, it's the requel thing, which I know it's going to sound hypocritical because you talk about, there's certain requels, I hate that that's become the term now, but that's probably what we're going to use from now on, that I like The Force Awakens, and others that or even Ghostbusters Afterlife, and then there are others that I don't like, because they lean too heavily into the others, into, rehashing the old stories and the previous films and the originals. This one, I think, leans way, 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 way too heavily into Scream 96, especially the third act. Um, the first Scream, or Scream 96 as I've been calling it throughout this trailer, is a classic for a reason. It's because it was unique, it was real, it felt like something I hadn't seen before in past horror films. Scream 22 basically tries to reenact it, or tries to do it in a way that's like, this is the 2022 version and it's better, and remember this, and yeah, I do remember this. It was 1,000 times better when they did it back in 96. I don't need to see this again. And granted, it's a nice tip of the hat in certain ways, but it doesn't work. It's not good. It's kind of lame in comparison to basically what we have seen prior to that. And that's basically what's wrong with Scream 22, is that it tries to lean too heavily with connecting the lines and connecting the tissues to the previous films, that it really doesn't have its own identity. It's, remember this, the horror film. Remember this, you loved these movies, you're going to like this one reutilized and revitalized for 2022. And frankly, I didn't. It's still a solid horror film. I'm not going to say that it's a crap film, because it's not. On the Scream spectrum, though, it's the second to last for me. I still think Scream 1, Scream 2, and Scream 4 are better than Scream 22. Not the 20-second sequel, but you know what I mean. This is definitely way better than Scream 3. Scream 3 is just garbage. But it just, for me, there's more bad outweighing the good for this, and it could have just been because my expectations were super high for this movie, and I was real excited to see Scream again. But there are certain elements of this film, like certain scenes where it's like, why hasn't anyone shown up yet? Why hasn't the cop shown up yet? Certain kills that are just so blatantly out in the open that anyone could have seen it and anyone could have stopped it, and so much time passing in certain scenes where it's like, something has to happen right now, and we're not going to get it, and then trying to tease certain things. And I know I'm speaking super, super vague. Brian and myself will probably be doing a spoiler review at some point this weekend where we can kind of really go into it. But it's just, there's so many parts of this movie that to me just made me go, well, that wouldn't work because of XYZ, or, you know what, this is taking too long, or this character wouldn't do this, or this character's smarter than this, or this character really talks like they know what the hell they're doing, but then they're still making the same stupid mistakes that they basically just said don't do. And all these things, and it just ultimately kind of just... The Scream franchise is smarter than this. It's smarter than this, and it's better than this. And it could have just been because the word of mouth was so high for this movie that it's just making me feel so negative about it. But Scream 1, Scream 96, whatever the hell you want to call it, and Scream 2 deserve better than Scream 22. I don't think Scream 22 works. It feels like an empty rehash, and it feels like we're probably going to get more sequels, which, I mean, I'm not against seeing more Scream movies, but to quote Kylo Ren in The Last Jedi, let the past die. Start fresh. Start with something new. Do something unique and different that is not trying to lean so heavily on the previous Scream films, because you know what? They've been done. They were done perfectly, except for Scream 3, for the most part. Move on. Bring something new. Bring something energetic, something fun, something lively, and something unique like Scream 96 did, because Scream 22 literally just feels like basically what they call it throughout the film, a requel, and not one of the good ones. I'm going to give Scream 22 a 64%. Like I said, some of the cast works, a lot of them don't. The story is wishy-washy. There's certain character choices and character stuff with certain leads that just don't work for me. The original cast is good, and the kills are fun, unique, and gory. But I would say heed your expectations going into this. I think heeding your expectations after listening to this might make you actually like it more. But Scream 22 did not work for me overall. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up on the Movie Crusaders. And of course, we're going to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Coming up next, Brian, Michaels, and myself will probably be coming back here later this weekend and doing a spoiler review of Scream 22. So we can actually really talk about what I'm trying to so vaguely, hopefully, somewhat decently described in this non-spoiler review. And then like I said, January, it's kind of wishy-washy in terms of show or what movies are coming out. So I think Cyrano might be the next film that might be coming out because Black Phone got pushed back to June. So we'll be back when there's some more stuff to watch and review. So until next time, in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.
You're still here. It's over.